vampires. You've been speaking to Gillen. That silly old man keeps reading books about those creatures.
When first entering the Temple District under the auspices of the Temple of the One, we barely make our way through the district's gate and are approached from behind by an out-of-breath female Dunmer.
Pardon me. I'm sorry to trouble you, but I was sent to ask for your help.
Caught off guard, we reply. I'm sorry, and you are?
Where are my manners? I'm Ralsa Norvalo. My husband Gillen has requested that I find you and ask if you'd assist him.
We're then presented with two options. If we were disinclined to help, we can state, sorry, I'm busy at the moment.
Oh, I see. Well, if you change your mind, come see me and I can fill you in on the details. Please reconsider soon. I'm worried about him.
You have my ear, citizen.
After the Dark Elf departs into the night, the quest, Order of the Virtuous Blood, would commence and our quest would update. A Dunmer named Ralsa Novalo has approached me in the Imperial City Temple District and asked me to meet her husband, Gillen. I refused for now, and she told me if I changed my mind to come to her house where she'll fill me in on all of the details. We soon locate the worried wife's residence next to the All Saints Inn. Deciding to hear her out, we enter. Once inside, she turns to welcome.
Good, you're back. You've come back. Have you reconsidered?
Genuinely curious, we respond. Sure, how can I help?
Normally I wouldn't approach a total stranger like this, but Gillen seemed so insistent. Please forgive my audacity.
Starting to wonder why Gillen didn't come himself, we reassure. It's all right, Ralsa. Continue.
Thank you. Gillen always tends to exaggerate, but in this case he sounded earnest, which worries me a bit. He said to tell you that the matter he needs help with is of the utmost importance to the citizens of the Imperial City. You're to meet him at Seradur's house, which is located in the Temple District. He said all will be explained when you get there. That's all he told me to say.
Sensing no deception from this Ralsa, and genuinely curious about the matter, we respond, don't worry, I'll go.
Thank you. I'm sure he'll be pleased. I must go now. Good day to you.
Attempting to seek further guidance, Ralsa then redirects.
I really can't help you with anything else. Please go see Gillen at Seradur's house.
Exiting the Dark Elf's abode, we then begin the hunt for her husband. As we traverse the darkened Temple District, we note in our journal, a Dunmer named Ralsa Novalo has approached me and said that her husband needs assistance in a matter of what she calls the utmost importance to the safety of the citizens of the Imperial City. She told me to meet Gillen at the house of someone named Seradur. Apparently, all will be explained when I get there. And it's soon that we find Seradur's house a stone's throw away in the southeastern corner of the Temple District. Once inside, a high elf nightblade garbed in upper-class attire approaches.
It's an honor to finally meet you. When I heard you were in town, I just had to send for your help. Your reputation precedes you. Oh, allow me to introduce myself. I am Seradur.
Pleased to meet you, Seradur.
Likewise.
Though, why involve Gillen's wife?
Sorry to send Gillen's wife to get you in that manner, but it seems safer if we weren't seen on the streets right now. If you'll come with me.
Intrigued by the cautious nature of the meeting, we agree. Very well, lead on.
Splendid. Watch your step.
Seradur then saunters down to his basement, and, watching our step, we follow. Inside the basement, we round the first corner to see a banner down the hall with a sigil depicting an ominous drop of blood hanging above a loitering Argonian. Impatient, Seradur waves us forward. Now, more cautious than ever, we follow down the stairs, and the Argonian Greythroat greets.
I'm honored by your presence. Hear out Seradur first, then we'll speak.
Likewise, Ralsa's dark elf husband Gillen Novalo welcomes.
Nice to meet you. You must speak with Seradur first.
Complying with his companions, clearly the head of this secretive group, we approach Seradur, and he begins his initiation monologue.
Welcome. You're now in the sanctuary of the Order of the Virtuous Blood. Few outside our circle have ever set foot in our hallowed hall. We are, for lack of a better word, defenders. We guard the city from an infestation that plagues it. We are vampire hunters. I'm sure you are familiar with these despicable beings, feeding on the innocent as if they were cattle. Well, this group was formed to combat them. Alas, we are but 3 old men, not able to match the fighting prowess of a vampire. We lack the strength to defeat them in battle.
Stunned at this deadly revelation, our quest momentarily updates. Seridor has revealed to me that he's a member of a group of individuals dedicated to the destruction of vampires called the Order of the Virtuous Blood. Their goal is to keep the Imperial City safe from these creatures of the night. I shall continue speaking to him and find out how I can assist them. Congruently, we question, vampires? How can they survive in the Imperial City? Surely somebody's seen them. And even if they do, what are you going to do if you find one?
Our goal is to root out the vampires that live in our fair city. So far, we've been unsuccessful finding one, until now. It's come to the Order's attention that Temple District resident Roland Genseric is a vampire, and has already claimed one victim. That's where you come in. We want you to slay this vampire and cleanse the city of his filth before he can feed or kill again.
Roland Genseric. Why does that name sound familiar? We then cast our mind back to a sketchy Breton that we'd bumped into not long ago in the Temple District's back alleys at night.
Stay away. Go away. I know what you're here for. Just leave me alone.
What are you doing skulking back here? And what do you mean, what I'm here for? I don't even know you.
It's not safe talking to strangers. I don't know what's going on, but I have to be careful. Please, stay your hand.
The fiend must have perceived that his true identity was made by the Order. Crafty bastard. We should have nabbed him while he had a chance. Seridor then surprisingly relates a similar story.
A few nights ago, I was roaming the city, as I often do, looking for any signs of a vampire. As I headed past Roland's house, I heard a cry. I rushed into the back garden to find Roland struggling with a woman he'd been courting. I tried to intervene, but he was too strong. He threw his lover to the ground and turned his attention on me. Luckily, I managed to run back into the street and escape his grasp. I hid for a while and then returned to the garden. Roland was gone, and the woman was dead. She had 2 puncture marks on the nape of her neck. That's when I realized he was a vampire. The Order needs you to track him and destroy him.
Guilt-ridden that we didn't stop the fiendish Breton while we had the chance, costing that poor girl her life. We resolved to put an end to his evening activities before he can kill again, and query, how do I find him?
I would start by searching his home. He hasn't been there for days, so it should be safe. Return to us here if you have questions. We meet at night.
Understood. Where is Roland's home located?
His home is located in the Temple District. Right across the garden from my home, in fact. Ironic, isn't it?
Let's call it fortuitous. To be honest, he seemed flighty and not all that menacing when we met him. An effective ruse to employ, I suppose. Or perhaps he's a newly turned vampire, and the thirst for blood has overtaken him.
Vampires are nasty creatures. They drink the blood of others to conceal their true nature. Such trickery makes them difficult to find. You may ask Gillen Norvallo or Greythroat about these creatures as well. They've learned much. Who knows when Roland may strike again? You must hurry.
Before speaking to Gillen, we hear the old boys get into some gruff banter.
You creatures are all the same.
Heard any news from the other provinces?
Nothing I'd like to talk about.
I'm done talking to you.
Hello again, fellow vampire hunter. My knowledge is at your disposal.
Pleased to meet you, Gillen. Thanks to your lovely wife, we may be able to stop Genseric. As a local, what's your take on the Breton?
Roland was always a quiet man. It was only recently he'd met that young lady. Poor girl. We must avenge her death.
Agreed. Seridor said you had some advice on how to deal with the undead.
It's said that the bite of a vampire has the chance of infecting the victim. If this occurs, they'll become a vampire in a few days. Be cautious. Vampires are clever, so watch your back. Anything you require, you're welcome to it.
We then turn to a seated greythroat, deep in research, who looks up from his book to question.
How can I be of service?
What do you know of Roland Genseric?
Roland was very much the loner. He never married and was rarely seen outside his house. I'm surprised his secret wasn't discovered sooner.
Well, they are crafty. Have you found much on their weaknesses I may be able to exploit?
A vampire cannot exist in the daylight for long. As the sun's rays strike his flesh, it will burn as if on fire. Be ever vigilant. Vampires are creatures of deceit.
Leaving the order to their meeting, we exit Seradur's basement. Curious, we first search his abode further, heading upstairs. In the Altman's bed, we find a dark elf male, scantily clothed in a loincloth, and he jumps from the bed annoyed.
You're not supposed to be in here! I'm Silben Dolavas, assistant and bodyguard to Seradur. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, that's a very close bodyguard. No further questions. Exiting Seradur's home into the Temple District's night air, we note in our journal, I've been told that Roland Genseric in the Temple District of the Imperial City is a vampire. The Order would like me to kill him. To locate Roland Genseric, Seradur suggested I search his home, which is also here in the Temple District.
How goes it?
Evening.
Admittedly, it's been 2 weeks since I killed a vampire, and I'm already starting to get the itch.
Yes? Nice to see you again. Is there something you require?
Hi, Ralsa. I spoke to Gillen, and he's asked me to locate a Breton named Roland Genseric. Have you seen him lately, perchance?
Don't really know him. He lives across the way from Seradur, I think.
Well, you were right about the importance of our mission. Turns out, he's a vampire.
Vampires! You've been speaking to Gillen. That silly old man keeps reading books about those creatures. I hope he hasn't gotten you wrapped up in some foolish errand.
I take it you don't make much of Seradur and his club.
Seradur is a nice enough fellow, for an Altmer, that is. I think he and Gillen and that Argonian Greythroat have some kind of a club. They're very serious about it, but I'm sure it's just some boys' night out kind of thing. Farewell.
Leaving the non-believing Mrs. Novallo, we begin our hunt for Roland's nest. We soon find ourselves in the alley directly behind Seradur's house, where we first met the Breton vampire, and Seradur apparently chanced upon him as he claimed his first victim. Heading around the corner, we unsheath our sword. Although Roland has been said to be absent from his home, we prepare ourselves nonetheless. Inside his abode, our journal updates. I've arrived at Roland Genseric's house. I should begin to search the place for any clues as to his whereabouts. Beginning up the stairs to our right, we encounter Roland Genseric's private quarters, breaking through his average lock. Once inside, see on a table a human skull, I guess that he collected from a former unknown victim. Looking around his private quarters, we see on a shelf more human skulls, in which he clearly holds pride and puts in effort of their display. In the northwestern corner, we come across a small study as well as a very hard-locked chest. Inside is a paltry amount of gold and some silverware. And inside the desk, there seems to be nothing to relate to Roland's whereabouts. And so we exit back down to the first floor. Inside Roland's living quarters, we find 2 tables holding food uneaten, obviously to keep up appearances. And so we begin our search deeper, inside Roland's locked basement. Inside Roland's basement, we find no signs of vampires or their coffins. And so we put our sword away and look at his incredibly well-stocked bar. In lieu of what we'd assume to be bottles of blood, we find all assortments of liquors, potions, and even a couple of odd bottles of skooma. Clearly, the Breton enjoyed a drink, Or perhaps his guests/victims were lulled into a false sense of security as he happily had them inebriated before having his way with them. Although we've possibly put together pieces of Roland's lifestyle and nefarious activities, we're no closer to discovering his whereabouts. That is, until we turn to the first dining table and see a love letter from one Ralphina next to the second dining setting, and it reads, "My dearest Roland, I cannot wait for you to return from Burville. My heart swells with joy as I know we will once again soon be together. I yearn for you every night that I look beside me in my bed and you are not there. How I wish I could have taken the journey with you, but I understand that these are dangerous times and I would only slow you down. When you return, perhaps we can get away from the chaos of the Imperial City. Let's go back to that cabin in the woods, the one where you said we would always be safe from the world, the one where you took me in your arms and sang songs of moonlight and happiness. The one where you said, I love you. Hurry, my love. Ralphina." Exiting Roland's home with journal in hand, our quest updates. After searching Roland's home, I found a letter written to Roland from his girlfriend. It mentions a cabin where the two would meet. It's located east of the Imperial City in the Great Forest. I think this may be where Roland could be hiding. I should head out there immediately before he has a chance to escape. Letter in hand, we bound down the basement and Serida intercepts.
A letter, eh?
Seems Roland was quite the romantic before he turned and has a love nest just outside the city. What do you think?
I wasn't aware he had a cabin outside of the city. Perhaps that's where he lures his victims. Be careful. He may have others with him. I'm afraid we cannot go with you to this remote location. Fighting is not our specialty. Watch yourself. Vampires are known to be crafty.
Agreed. None of this scenario seems by the book. But then again, who really knows the mind of a vampire?
I believe that Greythroat and Gillen may have more information for you regarding these creatures. Who knows when Roland may strike again? You must hurry.
We turn to see the Studious Order's members poring over texts, and Gillen looks up to share.
My knowledge is at your disposal.
Something strange came up. I found Roland Genseric's girlfriend's diary, and he's hiding out in a cabin.
Odd. A cabin is an unusual hideout for a vampire. They prefer dank caves and the like. Much darker, and no need to block out windows.
That's what I said. None of this makes sense. Found anything else useful in your research, perchance?
I've learned some more information. Vampires are immune to paralysis spells and common diseases. I hope that helps in some way. Vampires are clever, so watch your back.
Greythroat then queries.
How can I be of service?
So, we think Roland is hiding in a cabin. How would you approach this situation?
If I were you, I'd go to the cabin in the daytime. That way, if he begins to overpower you, the outside can be a sanctuary.
Right, because he would burn in the light. That makes sense. Anything else?
Vampires have a weakness to fire. You may wish to use this to your advantage. Be ever vigilant. Vampires are creatures of deceit.
Anything you require, you're welcome to it.
Gleaning all the information we can from the old boys in their research, we know this is now our quest, and our quest alone. And soon find Roland's cabin thanks to the journal entry located between the Imperial City and Cheydinhal on our map. The entrance to his private getaway lies at the end of a short cobbled path that runs north from the Blue Road and east of its intersection with the Red Ring Road. We then heed the advice of Greythroat about vampires and their aversion to natural light and wait for dawn outside the boarded-up single-story cabin. Once dawn breaks, we note in our journal, I've arrived at Roland's cabin. I should proceed inside to see if he's here. I should be cautious, as Serida warned me that vampires could be very dangerous. Throwing caution to the wind, we unsheath our sword and rush the cabin's front door. Inside, we scan the small shack and find Genseric alone, with his back to us, almost as if in anticipation of our arrival. Approaching the slippery Breton, poised to strike, he then unexpectedly urges,
Stay away!
"Stay away! Turn and face me, you murderous scum!"
Go away. I know what you're here for. Just leave me alone.
Leave you alone? Like you did that poor girl after you ripped her throat out? You vampires disgust me.
Vampires? Why would you ask me about those filthy creatures?
I'm not asking. The jig is up. Seridor says you're a vampire. Don't deny it.
That bastard! Seridor dares accuse me of being a vampire? Me? Ha! He's the one who is the vampire. Please, stay your hand.
The order did warn me about a vampire's treachery. As we decide on the best course of action, our quest updates, Roland Genseric insists that he's not a vampire. In fact, he's accusing Seridor of being one instead. I should listen to what he has to say about Seridor and see if I can determine who's telling the truth.
Please, hear me out.
Here's the deal. You've got 1 minute. Otherwise I draw my sword again.
At least hear me out before you decide to end my life.
How about you start talking and tell me why I should believe that Seridor is the vampire?
I can't believe him. I knew he would try and pin this on me. If only I could get my hands on him.
Well, his indignation seems real. Okay, calm down and explain, Roland.
I'm sorry. I've been hiding up here in this cabin and I've forgotten my manners. Try and understand. I loved her. I'd never harm her. Ralphina was the love of my life. For the first time I had a positive outlook. Then I saw Seridor looking at her with those coveting eyes. When she started taking walks in the garden at night, I became suspicious. I didn't want to lose her. I should have trusted her. Oh, Ralphina.
I've heard Seridor's side, but what happened that night?
Yes, I must let someone else know. That night, I decided to follow Ralphina. I wanted to see where she went on her walks. When she stopped in the garden and Seridor stepped out of the shadows, my heart sank. Then suddenly he was upon her. She seemed entranced as he wrapped his arms around her and sank his teeth into her neck. I burst from my hiding place and attacked Seridor. He became startled for a moment and tossed Ralphina aside. She fell to the ground, and I heard a sickening crack as her head struck a stone. I was no equal to Seridor. He knocked me down in one quick movement. As I lost consciousness, I saw him laugh and then run away. Now I know why he didn't finish me that night. He wanted to cast suspicions on me instead.
So you claim that your lover was killed by Seridor and you yourself were attacked by the vampire, then why didn't you tell someone?
I panicked. By the time I awoke, her body was gone. I knew Seridor was a respected member of the community. They'd never believe he was a vampire. I retreated here to the cabin to collect my thoughts.
Now we've heard Roland's account. Our quest updates. Roland tells me that he thought his lover was having an affair. So he followed her one night on a walk. He came across Seridor, draining the blood from her neck. Roland says he attacked Seridor, and in the chaos, Roland's lover was killed. Seridor got away. Knowing Seridor was a respected member of the Imperial City, he panicked and ran to the cabin here to collect his thoughts and decide what to do next. I need to decide what to do about this. Sensing our conflicted emotions on who is the true vampire, Roland then questions.
I suppose you must decide what to do. Are you going to kill me?
We're now presented with 3 options: to kill or spare Roland, or betray Seridor, in a quest to learn the true vampire's identity, if any. To kill Roland, we say. I saw the skulls in your home, you know, Roland. Your treacherous tongue cannot save you from justice, you vile, undead creature.
Then I'll fight you until my last breath. I won't surrender and admit to a crime I didn't commit. Why won't you die? Ah, you'll never take me down. Show me what you've got.
With Roland defeated, our quest updates. I've slain Roland Genseric. I should return to the Order and tell Seridor that my task is completed. Curiously, Roland's corpse does not disperse any of the telltale vampire ash, and so we scoop up his elven longsword, clothing, keys, and 6 gold off his corpse, before returning to Serador's house to regale the Order of the Virtuous Blood with news of our success. Eating a meal in the dining area of the ground floor, Serador's bodyguard informs.
Serador is asleep right now. He's had a long night of study and is exhausted. Do not disturb him. He'll be up at 5 this evening.
Keeping the same hours as the night folk he hunts. I'd expect no less from a Mer of his dedication. Inside the basement, a praying Greythroat redirects.
Please, Serador is anxious for your report.
Similarly, a seated Gillen Novalo says,
You should speak to Serador first. He has your reward.
As the 2 gents get up, we follow them upstairs, ready to receive said reward.
Yes, brother?
And locate Serador slumbering in his upstairs bedroom. Perhaps he and his bodyguard don't share a bed, but instead sleep at different times, ever vigilant for retribution due to their work.
Get out of here!
Apologies for waking you. I have some news I believe you'd want to hear.
Has the deed been done?
Yes, Roland is dead.
Excellent. I knew you wouldn't disappoint the Order. Here's the reward that was promised. However, I must ask that you reveal nothing about us. You've done a great service for the Imperial City, and you should be proud.
With a tidy 250 gold as a reward, this concludes the quest, Order of the Virtuous Blood.
I'm sorry. I'm very busy now. There's still much work to be done. Good day.
Our quest then updates. Serador was pleased with me and rewarded me with 250 gold. He said that I've done a great service for the Imperial City, and I should be proud. Seeking out the remaining members of the Order for their thoughts on Roland being a vampire, starting with Greythroat.
Always a pleasure.
What did you think of Roland Genseric and his ghastly affliction?
A shame he had to die. Before he turned, he was a fine man.
Speaking of which, we checked his corpse but couldn't find any vampire dust.
Touching a vampire, or even the corpse of a vampire, can result in infection. Do be careful. If you want to know more, browse our library. Be ever vigilant. Vampires are creatures of deceit.
Probably shouldn't have touched his corpse. Gillen then queries.
How can I help?
I'm guessing you heard the news? We've slain the vampire Roland Genseric. Hard to believe he was a vampire the way he acted.
I never would have guessed that Roland was a vampire. I could have sworn I saw him walk in daylight.
It is strange. I guess I'll have to research further. What would you recommend?
I'm afraid there isn't much more I can tell you. Perhaps one of our books can answer any more questions you may have. Vampires are clever, so watch your back.
This is as good a time as any to explore the Order's library, as not only does it hold valuable books on vampirism, but also copies of mysticism, as well as the hand-to-hand skill book Immortal Blood. Now left to question whether the killing of Roland is right. What happens if we spared the Breton instead? First off, when presented with the 2 options in the cabin, we would say, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you."
Thank you. I'm happy you gave me a chance to explain.
Okay. Serador, the head of the Order of the Virtuous Blood, dedicated to hunting vampires, is himself a vampire. Help me understand that.
I know about Serador and his secret order. What better way for a vampire to hide than to pretend he hunts them? You may want to speak to Phintius at the first edition bookshop in the market district of the city. I know he goes there occasionally. I doubt that he's told Gillen and Greythroat anything, but you could always try.
Okay, Phintius at the bookshop. Anything else a little more concrete?
As you know, the vampire can't remain in sunlight. I'd wager that you'll never see Serador outside during that time of day. Remain leery of Serador. He's much more cunning than you may suspect.
Well, he does sleep during the day, but we assumed he was taking shifts with his bodyguard. Congruently, when we return to Serador's, his bodyguard warns.
Serador is asleep right now. He's had a long night of study and is exhausted. Do not disturb him. He'll be up at 5 this evening.
Again, disturbing Serida's slumber, he questions.
Have you slain Roland?
We can now choose to hide the Breton's whereabouts, lying. No, he wasn't there.
He must have known we'd look there. Search around town and see if you can find any more information.
Although at this point, if we take no further action, it makes the quest go cold. If we speak to Serador's companions, they have unique dialogue.
How can I be of service?
I've just got back from Roland's cabin. It's empty and the trails run cold.
A shame he wasn't there. I thought that you'd be able to put an end to this madness.
I agree. The madness needs to end. We have Serador to thank for that, no doubt.
Serador is an honorable man. Forming the Order shows just how much he cares about the Imperial City and protecting its people.
Greythroat then concerningly shares.
Vampires rarely live alone. They tend to have others of their ilk around them for protection. Be ever vigilant. Vampires are creatures of deceit.
What's better, to be protected by vampires or vampire hunters?
My knowledge is at your disposal.
I searched Roland Genseric's cabin, but it's turned up empty.
I knew it. Like I said before, a vampire wouldn't hide in a cabin. It'd be more like a cave or some other dank place.
Speaking of dank places, how long have you been meeting up in this cozy little basement at night thanks to Serador?
Serador? He founded this group a few years ago. I was impressed with his knowledge of vampires. When we decided to make the group official, Serador offered his basement as our headquarters. Quite nice, isn't it? Vampires are clever, so watch your back.
Now, thoroughly concerned with our current companions and their allegiance, we will explore what happens if you betray Serador, attempting to unmask the true vampire. Approaching Serador for a final time, he queries.
Have you slain Roland?
This time, we instead tell the truth, admitting he said he wasn't a vampire.
Well, of course he'd say that. He'd do anything to save his skin. Please, don't let him deceive you. You must return there and put an end to his masquerade. Quickly, before he has a chance to get away. Well, don't just stand there. Go and kill him!
There's something about Serador's desperation we find unsettling. And so we head back downstairs and check our journal which guides. I've decided to give Roland a chance and will investigate his story. Roland told me that Serador makes the occasional trip to the first edition bookshop in the market district of the Imperial City. He told me I should speak to the owner, Fintius. Once inside, we see a sizable collection of books atop a counter, and the Red Guard proprietor, Fintius, greets.
I'm Fintius, owner and proprietor of the first edition. Look around. If I don't have it, maybe I can get it.
Actually, my good man, I was hoping you could help me locate one of your customers and, well, I've got a surprise for them. I don't want to spoil it. His name's Serador. I'm sure you know him.
I'm not really at liberty to discuss my customers with strangers.
I think I understand completely.
We'll see. That will get you something.
Something like information on Serador?
Serador? He comes in from time to time. Usually it's when he's out shopping. He always comes in with a large amount of travel food in his bag. Then sometimes he buys a few books. I asked him once about it, and he said that he goes out of the city on business trips. I think I overheard him once mention Memorial Cave to another patron of mine, but he never talked to me about it directly.
Memorial Cave, you say? Sorry, I'm not too familiar with that place.
Yes, it's outside of the Imperial City. I heard it's a place where many of the heroes from past wars are buried. Sort of a subterranean graveyard. I just assumed Serador had a relative that died and is buried there. Not many people go out there anymore, as the route is dangerous. But Serador's a stubborn one. Takes integrity for a man to risk his own life to honor the fallen. I admire him for that. I looked it up once in an old atlas I had in stock. Here, let me mark it on your map. Good day.
With Fintius's help, our quest updates. I've discovered that Cerida makes the occasional visit to a place called Memorial Cave. It's a burial site for many heroes that died in past wars. Cerida supposedly has a relative interred there. Perhaps I should go to investigate. As we head towards Memorial Cave, we can't help but think past to everything that's been said from both parties. Roland with his macabre display of human skulls in his own home, and then Cerida. He's also taking travel food. Why would a vampire need food for sustenance? And why does neither party look like a vampire? Are they well fed, or is something else at play? Thoroughly confused on the matter, we innately know the mystery of the vampire terrorizing the temple district will soon be cleared. Stealthily entering the cave, we soon see a corpse hanging by its neck. It seems to have been ripped from his coffin, a clear warning to any unwanted interlopers that dare enter. Deeper in the cave, we find a large open cavern and see a faint figure in the distance. Pulling our bow for a stealth look down our sights, we're hit!
You're pathetic!
Whoa! By a single arrow in our flank that luckily our armour absorbs the brunt of. We turn on our assailant, a Bosma archer who taunts.
That the best you can do?
Responding, we rush the Bosma with our blade and stick her with it. On her body we locate her leather armour and the unmistakable musty odour of vampire dust. Our quest then updates. I've entered Memorial Cave. It's now being used as a vampire den. I need to see if I can find Cerida in here and put a stop to his charade. Deeper in the cavern, we hear...
Huh? Where did you go? Come out when I can see you!
And snipe a single vampire pilgrim.
No!
Scooping up their collective belongings, we then begin searching the coffins for a slumbering Cerida, no doubt in need of good sleep after being forced to share a bed. Discovering the torso of a poor passerby haphazardly bound to a stone as a sign of extreme disrespect, no doubt. Deeper in the cavern's subterranean maze, we then locate past a half-dozen vampires and undead, a stick fence caging corpses of various levels of decay. Perhaps Cerida bought food for them, as they, in turn, became food for him. To the left, an entrance to a final cavity, well lit thanks to a hanging, burning corpse. Inside, as we stealthily draw our sword, an armoured Cerida knowingly intercepts.
Did you really think that I'm surprised to see you here? I let you find me. What better place to get rid of you than all the way out here? No messy bodies left behind, no evidence. I was sloppy last time with Roland's lover, and I won't make the same mistake twice. After I'm through with you, I'll find Roland and finish what I started. I knew hiring you was a mistake, but I had to keep up appearances. The damned Order insisted we get you into the picture. I think after I'm done with Roland, Gillen and Greythroat will have to be dealt with. Quite a list of things to do, wouldn't you say? Well, enough of my monologue. Time to feed. Ha! Ha! Ah! Am I supposed to be impressed?
With the despicable and duplicitous fiend dead, our journal then updates. Of slain Cerida, I should return immediately to Roland's cabin and give him the news. Sheathing our sword, we then retrieve Cerida's glass short sword. Lighting our torch, we then find on his remains his smarmy blue velvet outfit, as well as near pristine mithril armour, as well as a few potions of healing he should have drank while he had the chance, and the telltale vampire dust that was not on Roland's remains, plus his house key and 131 gold. Looting the nearby chests and coffins, we then depart the macabre cave and return to Roland Genseric's cabin. The Breton on edge then turns the question.
Do you return triumphant? I hope you're here to bring me good news.
Depends. Does Cerida being slain count as good news?
He's dead? Oh, thank goodness. I feared I'd never be able to leave here, or worse, that he would come for me. I can finally return home. The ironic thing is that I think the Order of the Virtuous Blood should continue its work. Perhaps I'll speak to the others. Yes, I think that the Order will live on. Give me time to make arrangements and meet me in Seridor's basement.
I'm surprised that you'd even enter his home.
Let us never speak of that abomination again.
Agreed. I've seen enough vampires to last a lifetime.
Horrid creatures. I hope we never see one in the Imperial City again. I'll see you in the Imperial City.
During our travel back to the city, we note in our journal, I've returned to Roland's cabin and told him what had transpired. He thanked me for clearing his name and vowed to take Seridor's place to continue the Order of the Virtuous Blood. He said I should meet him there for a reward. Inside Seridor's former abode, his guard Silban, armed with a glass two-handed sword, spins on us.
I didn't know Seridor was a vampire. I swear! I serve Roland now. Please, accept my apologies for my error in judgment.
He really charmed the pants off poor Silban, it seems. In the basement, Roland then welcomes.
Hello again, my friend.
Greythroat then greets.
It's good to see you again. I'm so sorry that we didn't realize Seridor's deception.
None of us did. How's things with Roland as the head of the Order?
He'll make a fine replacement for Seridor. It's the least we can do.
And Seridor?
He was a traitor. Thanks to you, the Order lives on. Long live the Order. Be ever vigilant. Vampires are creatures of deceit.
Gillen then pleads.
Please forgive my ignorance. Had we known about Seridor, we'd never have put you in harm's way.
It's okay. How's Roland doing?
The Order welcomes him.
Better than being led by a vampire.
I'm astounded that the very thing we decided to fight turned out to be in our midst. Vampires are clever, so watch your back.
With that gem of wisdom, an elated Roland greets.
It's so good to see you again. I've spent a good deal of time speaking with Gillen and Greythroat. They agree that the Order should live on. Not only that, but we'd like to make you an honorary member. If you're ever in need of our services, we'd be happy to provide them for you. In addition, we'd like to reward you with this enchanted ring. Use it well in the fight.
Our quest then concludes. I've returned to Seridor's home, which the Order still uses to meet. Roland was there, and he told me I am now an honorary member of their group. He has also bestowed an enchanted ring on me to help me in my future encounters with vampires. Now, we will look at said ring in a moment, but it should be noted, we can then ask, what would you have me do as an actual honorary member of the Order?
At least there are a few less vampires in the world now. Well done. But there are more of these creatures that still roam Cyrodiil. If any of our books can help you in the cause of destroying more, you're welcome to read them. Since you're an honorary member of the Order, if you bring back proof you've slain a vampire, we'd be glad to compensate you. Bring back the vampire dust from their remains. That should be proof enough.
We can now exchange vampire dust for 250 gold apiece, as Roland exclaims.
Excellent. Another vampire has been slain. Here's your reward. Return to me when you have slain another vampire, and the Order will gladly reward you. May the sunlight always safeguard your path.
We then admire our new Ring of Sunfire, worth a hefty 6,350 septims and boasting Resist Disease 20% on self and Reflect Spell 14% on self. We then leave the Order to their research and depart Seridor's ex-abode until we can exchange more vampire dust for coin, that is. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Dark Lore, and if you want to support the channel in a more personal way, consider supporting us on Patreon. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, Traveller.